Walt Disney Studios is planning a Prince Charming film. Is this going to be another woke remake, or is it a desperate ploy to win back their male audience?
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Airy. Welcome to the StudioJake vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. In a desperate plea to sort of bring in a female audience, which already existed at Disney, they decided to do things like introduce effeminate men, hire activist writers who had no experience writing actual television shows, and that ended up ultimately ruining the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well as Star Wars. I've referred to the current MCU as the MSHU because if it's over focus on female characters. Now, had they actually been well written characters, like if they had actually done She Hulk or Echo correctly, then I could see how that would be a good thing to do, right? You always want to expand your audience. The problem is the writers they were hiring were just putting their therapy notes into their scripts instead of actually writing good stories. That's not the fault of the female audience. That's just the fault of Disney for hiring these sort of soy boy and soy girl writers who don't actually know about story structure, the audience that they're trying to tell that story to, or the characters that they're placing in that story. They just slap on a label from something familiar to bring the audience in, and then when the audience doesn't come in because they've seen how awful it is, they blame the audience. That's the whole new strategy that's happening at Warner Brothers, Discovery, at Disney, and several other studios. So there is a little bit of a turnaround going on, and I believe that this Prince Charming announcement could be evidence of that. So this is according to bleedingfool.com. Woke or nope? Disney working on a Prince Charming movie. Prince Charming, the love interest archetype of many a Disney princess, is getting his very own feature film. Wonka filmmaker Paul King, who's behind the Paddington franchise, is directing Prince Charming for Disney. King, Simon Barnaby, and John Croker are co-writing the screenplay, of which plot details have not been confirmed. It's unclear if the film will be live action or animated. In classic fairy tales, the Prince Charming character is the one who rescues a damsel in distress and sets out to save her from evil forces or stepmothers. You can see this in Cinderella, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Rapunzel, and basically any other 20th century at the time period, not the film studio Disney movie. I should correct the writer here, it's Tangled, not Rapunzel. Anyway, continuing on. In those films, however, he's usually a side character and not the main star. Though Prince Charming was originally the love interest of Cinderella, this project will reportedly not be specifically linked to the curfew-breaking princess. The decision to cast Paul King suggests Disney wants to lean into a blend of humor, heart, and family-friendly charm. But just how woke will this be? Can we expect Prince Charming to be rescued by the girl boss? Will he be gay? Will there be unnecessary race or gender swaps? And that's the full article. Head on over to bleedingfool.com to read it and check it out and a lot of their other content. And see, that's my whole thing is I'm fine if Disney wants to do a Prince Charming film, although they already introduced Prince Charming in the live-action Cinderella remake, so will this even be connected to that? By all accounts, it appears not, that this will just be a totally new film. And I have to admit, it does concern me a little bit because we see this a lot with these woke Disney remakes where they'll let you think that, oh, this is going to be a movie about this particular male character, but then it'll be a bait and switch. We saw this with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, Obi-Wan Kenobi wasn't a bait and switch in the sense that, in the third episode, he gets taken out by something and then the female girl boss steps in, but you could definitely tell that the Inquisitor in that film as well as the young Princess Leia were actually the main characters of the film, and that they were just riding Obi-Wan's coattails in order to succeed. I wonder if Prince Charming will be the same. I certainly hope not. I would love to see a live-action Disney film where there is a prince who saves the day. I just don't want him to be an overly emotional wreck. I don't want him to be replaced by his strong female counterpart halfway through the movie or even at the end of the movie. I don't want to see him have a girl sidekick who's better at everything than he is. I don't want to see a bossy mom who isn't, a maternal figure, but more like a coach who is there just to tell him what to do every step of the way. I want to see a good, solid Prince Charming movie that is about a brave and true knight, royal knight, who goes in to save the day. It doesn't have to be a damsel in distress. It could be he has to go on some sort of quest. He has to find an item. He has to beat the bad guy. It doesn't have to be a situation where there's a damsel in distress, even though I don't think there's anything wrong with that type of story, but it appears that for some reason Hollywood thinks there are, probably because of all these ridiculous feminists and male feminists that are running around Hollywood. Absolute hypocrisy on all sides. I do think that a Prince Charming movie could be good. Now, me personally, I'm not as familiar with Paul King's works, so I can't say for sure if I think he would do a good job or not. I do know a lot of people who seem to like the Paddington Bear films, so perhaps it will be good in that sort of sense. Basically, what I'm saying is I have hopeful optimism, but I'm going to still keep myself in check until I at least see the trailer. I did read a rumor yesterday when I was researching the topic that Chris Hemsworth is in talks to portray Prince Charming. Chris Hemsworth is a good enough actor and bulky enough to be able to pull it off, or I think you could sell it to the audience that he is Prince Charming. Like I said, here's what I don't want to see in this movie. I don't want to see Prince Charming being bossed around by some sort of girl boss, whether it be a sister, a sidekick, or his mom, or even the villain, and he's just drug around. He has no agency himself, and he can't handle whatever quest he is on unless he has them there. I don't want to see an emotionally wrecked Prince Charming who is constantly crying and not for any reason other than, oh, look at the bird. Nothing like that. I want to see a stoic, strong, smart prince who is brave and true in the truest form of the original Disney archetype. Number 3, I want a good, solid film with a good plot, with a lot of danger, a lot of excitement, and a lot of adventure. That's what you think when you hear a movie about a prince. Now, I'm not holding my breath. Disney and male characters don't have a good track record ever since Bob Iger has taken over. We've definitely been seeing a downplay in how the prince or even the princess in some cases are portrayed, where they want to uplift the strong female characters to put down the male characters. So I'm not excited about it in that sense, but I do think it's an interesting shift in the dynamic where Disney is saying, hey, we're going to move away from female centric films just to give you a Prince Charming movie. Now, like I said, it could be a bait and switch, but I'm going to exercise a little bit of caution with it. I'm going to be optimistic for it because Prince Charming is a compelling character. Most of them have names in the Disney films, but the very first one, who was kind of considered Prince Charming, was the one in Cinderella. And like I said, they've already introduced Prince Charming in the live action Cinderella. So is this movie going to be connected to it, or is it just a case of it's all spaghetti now? That's a question that is going to be on everyone's mind because Cinderella and The Lady and the Tramp were the only two good live action remakes that Disney has done. After that, it all went off a cliff. We had Maleficent, who's supposed to be the most evil of all the Disney villains. They watered her down and turned her into some sort of eco activist who was mad because she got her wings stolen, even though she's very powerful. She should be able to get them right back and didn't even change into a dragon, and the list goes on and on. I won't go through the list of Disney remakes. I've done that in previous videos. But all that to say, this is either one of two things. It's going to be a bait and switch, or it's going to be a desperate ploy by Disney to win back the male audience that has simply abandoned them with good reason. Not to mention their core female audience who like the stories the way they were because they're catering to a very niche sort of Hollywood writers' room crowd and not the general audiences. So we'll wait and see how that goes and where it goes. But hopefully, Disney has learned some lessons. If you like that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment and tell me what you think, and subscribe. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, to ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. If you don't want to support me on big tech, click on the link to my locals community. It's in the description of the video. You can become a monthly sub, or you can give me tips for articles that I write there. I also post exclusive content there, not just stuff from my website, StudioJakeMedia.com. Now, if you want to support me in a totally different way, pick up one or all of my books. I've got Cacophony, which is a supernatural paranormal thriller. I've got the Seven Royals series, which is sort of my high fantasy series. And I've got Blessed Child, which is a fantasy romance novella. You can get them all on Amazon.com. Leave me a 5-star review. When you do things like that, it really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.